Hey, everybody. I am here today with my friend and client, Julie Terrana, and we are going to talk about one of my favorite topics in the world, food. And my favorite topic of food isn't probably for the reason that most people love the topic of food, but because food is so important to energize our bodies, to optimize our energy, to think more clearly, and to prevent us in making right food choices from getting ill, from aging faster, for just deteriorating our mental health and our emotional health. And so I respect the power that food has, and dealing with people every day in Human Potential, it's one of the first things that we have to work on is their food and what they're eating and how they're treating their bodies. Because if your physiological state is not optimized, your emotional and mental state will not be optimized. So we're going to focus today on Julie's topic of food intelligence. So Julie, tell everybody a little bit about who you are and how we came across food intelligence, and your company, Best Whole Self, got created because of your own illness and your desire to change your lifestyle because your immune system was shutting down.
Exactly. My name is Julie Terrana, and I have the business Best Whole Self, which has begun a little more than a year ago. And as Jen said, it started because of my own journey with Crohn's disease. I was diagnosed in 2009, and I had experienced a series of flares and hospital stays since 2011. Tried numerous amounts of medications. I had a partial colectomy in 2014, and I realized I had to do more than just the medicine that my doctors were feeding me because I could not get into remission. And I was really stressed out at my job in finance, and I felt that stress hurts people with autoimmune diseases. I was not eating healthy. I was eating a lot of processed food. I lived alone, so it was whatever I could get pretty easily and cheap, which wasn't always healthy. And I decided to go gluten-free and really have a remake of my diet, eating very clean, as well as really managing stress well. And there was one incident that happened in 2013 that really stuck with me and made me want to change what I was doing for myself to start to project it out to others and help others as well. And I was at a local pool, and I met two guys there. I was with my friend. This was a few years ago. I was single. And this guy came up to me to talk and said, "Oh, how do you and your friend know each other?" And I met her through the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation because I was running a half marathon for them at the time to raise money, which is a big deal. If you have Crohn's disease, running a half marathon is a huge feat. Mm-hmm. So I told him, now we met through the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation because I have Crohn's disease. And he said, "Oh, my friend has Crohn's disease." And I thought, oh, great. He actually is going to know what I'm talking about. And he said, "Yeah, it really sucks. You better hope that you're married within the next 3 years because then you're going to have a bag and no one will want you." And like, I still get choked up when I say this, to think some guy clearly trying to pick me up. That was what he said. So if he said that, what do others think? That in 3 years, I'm going to have an ileostomy bag, which is very common for those with Crohn's and colitis, and no one's going to want me. I was 27 years old. I was single. It really devastated me. And this is such a small part of what people who have IBD, autoimmune diseases, really feel, because it's almost like there's a cast over us that we're not like everyone else and we're disgusting. So I took all of these experiences, completely revamped my life, and that is what I want to do for others, which is why I call it Best Whole Self, because it's not about being skinny, it's about being your best whole self. Yeah. And a side note, I'm now engaged. So to that guy who said no one's going to want me, 4 years later, I am engaged. So,
and you're feeling amazing. Hey, do you want to turn the volume down just a little bit?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Getting feedback. Thank you. So Trisha on here is a friend of mine, and she's going through cancer treatments right now. And she said, food heals, which is so true. That's what she's going through right now. And she's using food as one of her medicines to heal. And Eileen's on here too. Hi, pretty ladies. So, you know, it's funny. We met each other because I was speaking for Big Brothers Big Sisters on emotional intelligence, and you were so passionate, energized, and by the way, you look just like my friend Catherine. I mean, like identical to my friend Catherine. So I was so tripped up. I was like, babe, what's Catherine doing here? But what I loved when you handed me your card is best whole self. And that's what I teach everybody every day, is how do you be the best version of yourself every day? And food is such an incredible part of that. And most people actually damage their bodies and use it as something against them versus something to assist them in living longer, feeling more energized, feeling more productive, feeling more inspired. And I'm not saying I'm perfect and I don't eat certain things at certain times, but for the most part of my life, I choose to eat to sustain my energy and my health, because when I was in my 20s, I developed oxidative stress from overtraining and overworking. My kidneys, liver, and heart all started having issues, and I developed Hashimoto's disease, and which is an autoimmune issue as well. And so I learned in my 20s, like you, to have good health is so critical to my happiness and my ability to be productive. And I couldn't remember things in that time period of my life. I felt like sleeping all day, every day. I felt depressed, really, which is opposite of my personality. And I was a sugar addict at the time. So I was destroying my body through all the years of overeating sugar. And, really realizing that food was such a powerful source, I changed my relationship around how I saw food as to eat for enjoyment, but more so to eat to feel amazing. And it changed my life. As a matter of fact, I healed my Hashimoto's disease. I don't have to take any medication anymore because of how I eat and how I live my life. So can you share with everybody some of your top tips that you share immediately with your clients?
Sure. And as you said, Jen, you're absolutely right. A lot of times we feel that in order to make ourselves feel better, we eat food. And typically the foods we choose are high in fat, high in sugar, just really not nutritionally dense. So the first thing that I tell clients to do, and this is part of the food intelligence, and it's not as much as me saying you should eat X versus Y, it's why you should eat the foods that you should. For a lot of my clients, it's food safety. It means that they're going to eat it and not have a stomach ache, whether it be avoiding dairy, avoiding gluten, if they are a severe craze to not eat nuts and seeds and fruits because it could irritate their GI tract. So I always tell my clients to be healthy, safe, and things that are kind of higher in protein are a really good source of food to keep you fuller longer and also not be as processed, such as like eggs. I love hard-boiled eggs. That's a great grab-and-go food, as well as really nutritional and high in protein. So I make sure that they have a safe food, a food that's high in nutrition, and we go through every week to analyze their food log, because that's very important, especially when you have IBD, and kind of going through exactly what you have eaten and how we can eliminate as much processed foods as we can.
Yeah.
Sugar causes the disease symptoms to really arise, so we try to cut that out.
Yeah, and I want people to realize that this isn't just, can you turn that volume down again? Thanks. I want people to realize that this isn't just for people that are fighting something, but this is really about how to live your life, to live longer, to be younger, to be more useful and happy and energized. And by the way, you said eggs, and I know Trish with her chemo right now uses eggs all the time as like her power food.
Yeah.
And so it's really about choosing things to make you feel energized and sustained and productive and feel amazing. And I know with my daughter, Morgan, who has been fighting Lyme disease, she has to eat to optimize her immune system. That's everything that she chooses is intentional to optimize her immune system, because the second her immune system is suppressed, she gets sick. And it's really magnified for her, but I believe that's a lot of our society. People are getting sick all the time, and they don't realize that the second you're starting to feel run down, start sleeping more, add in hydration, take out all sugar and carbs and processed foods, and you won't get sick, or if you get sick, you'll get better faster. And so a lot of people never make the association around supporting their immune system. They'll eat to support your immune system until they're sick. And at that point, then they're putting in medicine, which can actually exacerbate and suppress the immune system even more. And then they get this sick cycle that continues on and on. So I'm sure you see that with a lot of your clients, and you started talking about sugar, and I'm sorry I interrupted you. I wanted everyone to know that this advice is for everyone, not just someone who's dealing with something. So let's go back to sugar, because you know how much I'm obsessed with the topic of sugar. I was a sugar addict, and I'm so grateful I have no desire to touch a dessert in my life right now. So let's talk more about sugar and how people, so people can understand how bad it really is for you.
Sure. So the sugar creates inflammation within the body, even for those who do not have autoimmune diseases, and that causes further aches and pains, not to mention the sugar roller coaster or the sugar crash that anyone would get if you were to have a donut for breakfast. By 2 hours later, because your blood pressure cannot sustain that amount of sugar and keep that high, it crashes. So what do? We eat more sugar to bring it up, and then a little bit later we crash. We all know this too well. It's a vicious cycle. And by incorporating foods that are that keep our blood sugar level steady, that's an easier way of maintaining your energy rather than this up and down roller coaster. And you really do hurt yourself by doing this. There is no advantage to adding the sugar to your diet. Skip that, and you'll be much more energized hours later than, that temporary high for about an hour beforehand.
I mean, and also you age faster with sugar in your life. If you have a diet that's filled with sugar and high processed foods, you're causing a ton of damage to your cells, and it actually causes you to age a lot faster. So I sometimes throw that in there for if you don't want to give it up, but then you can trigger the vanity for some people, then they're like, okay, all right, I didn't realize it was aging me too. Because our diet industry has really messed people up instead of helping people in the emotional connection that is with food. And so a lot of people think food, I can't have that, it's going to make me fat. And it's a very scarcity mindset around it versus an abundant mindset where I can have whatever I want, but I choose not to have it because I don't have time to be tired, or I don't have time to feel sluggish, or I don't have time to, age quickly, right?
Yeah.
I went to Disney with my daughters a few years ago, and on the floor that we were on every morning, there was like a continental breakfast out for everybody. And I'd walk in the room just to see if there was anything good, no source of protein whatsoever. And it was all high sugar cereals, muffins, donuts, danishes. And I walked in and I was like, how are these people going to walk around Disney all day with their kids and feel excited? Like, I'm looking at that food and thinking exhaustion the second I'm looking at it. And so, what are some of the strategies that you use with your clients to maybe help them get out of their sugar cycle? And maybe it's not just sugar. Maybe it's also the starchy carbs, like the pastas and the breads, so that they can live a better life and really switching that emotional connection that they had with it to something totally different that they can actually sustain longer and have more energy by getting rid of their diet and then also feeling good about what they're eating.
Sure. And you mentioned it briefly with focusing on what you can eat versus what you can't eat. And just like anything in life, the second someone says you can't do something, that's when you want to do it even more. So with my clients, we start looking at all of the things that they can eat, which is a huge list. And everything, if done or made properly, is delicious. And once they get used to eating a strawberry versus a candy bar for sweets, it's a very good way to kind of get them used to satisfying their sweet tooth without having the processed sugar. Another thing that we do is we make a list of ways that you could kind of go away from the norm and be bad without incorporating food. Taking a bubble bath, getting your nails done, sleeping in an extra 15 minutes. These are ways you can indulge and treat yourself without going to the typical, tub of ice cream and cookies and treating yourself with food, which is how we are really trained since childhood. We reward ourselves with food. We comfort ourselves with food. So it's all about changing our approach to doing something that gives us just as much satisfaction as that sugar high without really incorporating the sugar.
Yeah, you hit on something so powerful, and I deal with this all the time with my girls as they're at an age where all these things are conditioning their future patterns. And it's that treat. Everybody like wants to show love and affection with food, and it's usually not good food, by the way. It's usually bad for you food. And, you know, my daughters were doing their standardized tests this year, and they asked me to go buy candy the night before. And I was like, wait, what? Why would I go buy you candy? And they said, well, because the teacher said we're allowed to bring candy to school so that we can eat it in between like the breaks. And I was like, what? That is crazy. First of all, I'm not buying you candy. Secondly, no one should be eating candy. And I went to the teacher and I said, listen, there is so much pressure being put on these kids for these standardized tests all year long. And I know what you're doing is you're trying to be nice to them and reward them, but you're actually dumbing them down by allowing them to have that candy in between. Because from a neuroscience standpoint, when you take, and even if it's a chocolate chip, it doesn't need to be a whole candy bar. The chemical reaction begins the second a gram of sugar goes on your lips or on your tongue. And then it creates this chemical reaction to their brain that actually dumbs them down. And she was like, I never thought of that before. And I said, I know, because we've been so conditioned in our society that we reward people with candy, but it's so damaging because the second they're going to feel bad later in life, what are they going to go for? The thing that they were rewarded with that makes them feel good. So I love that you bring up having these healthy rewards. Like, you know, for me, a massage is my healthy reward, and I get them a lot because it's good for my body, but it feels amazing. It's a treat. And one of the other things that you do too, I know with your clients, that helps people from grabbing the wrong thing is you always teach people, and it's such a simple concept, and it seems so obvious to people who have eaten a certain way for a while. I know my daughter has certain foods that are her safety foods that she always has with her. But one of the things that you say a lot of people don't even realize to do is to pack certain snacks with them so they're never in a moment of, oh my gosh, my glycogen just dropped, I feel lightheaded, and then they grab something that's going to make them not feel great.
Exactly. And this is for clients across the board, not just those who have dietary restrictions, but those who are, you know, busy people who are constantly on the go. And we all get hangry every now and then, and it's not pleasant for ourselves or anyone around us. So I always tell my clients to pack food with them, whether it be a little bag of almonds. They sell the cute little like individual sizes. You could throw one in your glove compartment, one in your bag, leave one at the office. I also really encourage people to bring tea, like bags of tea, because you could always find hot water somewhere. For me, that is my safety blanket, essentially. Wherever I go, whatever country I'm in, I know I have my favorite tea that's safe to drink, just because coffee is hit or miss, and I can't always get something that I like. So I know that bringing my own tea, that to me is my safety net. And it's really key to plan ahead, and it takes some extra time. And I actually have one client that always packed Pepto-Bismol because he said when he was out, he would be maybe stuck eating something that upset his stomach, so he would take medicine. And I said, well, why don't you bring your own food with you? And I said, even if it's like a Kind bar or something, you could hold over at least until you're done with your job. And he said, you know, I always think about bringing medicine, but I never think about bringing the food. And that was a big light bulb moment for me, because I realized we're so quick to find the Band-Aid to fix the problem afterwards when we could have just prevented it in the first place by bringing something we know that we could safely bring something that's healthier compared to the donuts that they're serving. You're always in control that way of what is going into your body.
That's the epidemic of our society, right? It's like, well, I'm just going to eat it and I'll take Pepto-Bismol later. Well, then just don't eat it. If it's not going to agree with your body, there's other things happening to your body. Like, why touch your body like that? Or, you know, I know a lot of people that have dairy allergies. And so they eat the dairy anyway, and then they take this pill afterwards, a lactate pill afterwards. And I'm like, if you can't digest the dairy, even taking the pill might absorb some of the uncomfortability, but your body is still not agreeing with it. Like, why would you tax your body like that? I know people that have eczema or psoriasis, and they're taking all this medication, and I keep saying to them, like, change your diet so you don't have to take the medication anymore. And usually it's dairy that flares it up. Like, dairy is the first culprit for people that have eczema and psoriasis and a lot of other autoimmune issues. And then the gluten. So start by, and you might not ever need the eczema medicine anymore, or and you might feel amazing, right? So I'm sure you see that a lot with people as you start to teach them the healthier eating habits, that many of them could potentially be taking their medicine a lot less.
Yeah, and it's absolutely true. You know, just because you eat something that doesn't agree with your body, it's not like, oh, I could just run it off and it's like I never ate it. And the same thing with sugar. If you eat it, even if you don't have an autoimmune disease, it still wreaks havoc on your body, even if you go to the gym immediately afterwards. So diet and exercise are very important, but they're also mutually exclusive in that you still have to eat healthy even if you are exercising, because it's very important all the more for your body to perform at its best ability. And the damage that it does cannot be just, worked off. It has to be clean in, gets high energy out.
Yeah. I watch a lot of people that have now shifted their mindset from losing weight to, that diet mindset to lose weight into, I'm just going to change my lifestyle mindset, which is a lot more abundant and a lot more empowered. And they usually do that 30-day sugar detox. And it is unbelievable how much weight that they lose. They'll still eat like the avocados, like all really fatty, rich foods, but they're getting rid of the sugar and their bodies transform and they look so much younger so quickly, because you really can, I believe, anti-age and the damage that you've done. But I still look back at how much sugar I ate when I was younger, how much damage I had done to my body. I don't even want to know. And I'm trying to still repair that now, having had those autoimmune issues. I still have to be very careful about my immune system throughout the rest of my life now, because it's so compromised as it was, in my youth and in my 20s. And so I'm really cautious and aware of that. But one of the things I just learned yesterday in cellular rejuvenation is, what we're doing to our bodies right now as a cycle. I believe, I firmly believe this, in all the research that I've done, that we've been sold a big lie that breakfast is the biggest meal of the day and you should have big hearty breakfast. And you look at other European countries and they don't do that. And we have to remember who created the food pyramid and what lobbyist money goes into that. And so I feel that it was something that was created to create a bad cycle and system, because when you wake up first thing in the morning, if you eat a big meal, you're really expanding your stomach. And what happens when you expand your stomach, your body has to digest. And where's all your energy go when you're digesting? It's going away from your brain into your stomach when you want to be productive. And so this energy cellular rejuvenation workshop that I was listening to was talking about this bad cycle and how we also spend so much time in what he called a feeding time and too little time in a fasting time. So most people are feeding from 7 o'clock in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. So that's 14 hours a day they're feeding, which means they're only fasting 10 of those hours, where it should be more flipped, where you should actually be feeding in a 10-hour window, meaning from your first meal to your last meal, and you should be fasting the rest of that time. And that fast actually helps your cells detox, slough out the toxins, and allows your digestive system to clear out more effectively without taxing it so much. And they put these people into a study that they could eat the same foods, but they had shorter feeding times in their life during this case study. And they ate the same things. They weren't told you can't eat this, you can't eat that. They were just told use these feeding times and your body can actually optimize its metabolism better. which is the opposite of what we've been told. Yeah. And all of these people, every single one, lost a ton of weight, but never changed what they were eating. And they didn't feel hungry ever. Like they were all like, wow, I'm so surprised how good I'm feeling, because they were utilizing they're optimizing that cellular rejuvenation time period. And the whole study was also around your surge of your amino acids and when they go up, which is right after you eat, and when they go down. So it's this whole cellular rejuvenation cycle that they used to optimize the body and the mind and the metabolism. And the case study around it was really amazing. And so I think that's awesome advice to share with people too. If you're trying to get into a better eating pattern, start to maybe shorten your feeding time. Now don't eat after 7, and maybe start your breakfast later. I started this actually 10 years ago when I met with this fasting guru, and we had a lot of a similar conversation. And he would every day start to eat. His first meal would be at noon, and I started doing it. And I kid you not, and I've done it for like 10 years now. Everyone knows me knows I don't eat breakfast. And I have more energy now, and I have more increased health than when I wasn't doing that. So I've just stayed with it. I thought I was going to just do it for like 30 days to help my body detoxify. But then I just loved it so much, and I wasn't hungry first thing in the morning. And I got to tell you, I realized how exhausted I would get from eating a big breakfast, which is what we've been brainwashed to do. And I think some of this new cellular rejuvenation, cellular studies on like the damage that we're doing to our bodies are going to show that what we've been told for a long time is actually a lot different than what we should be doing.
Absolutely. Well, we look at the food pyramid, and that was what was taught for years, and it makes absolutely no sense. And now we're to the plate, the food plate. So I totally believe in more research. It will just confirm that what we've been doing all along was right, or say whatever we've been doing has been wrong. But I do agree with you in that lifestyle change really is the motivating factor to becoming well. And I personally eat small meals throughout the day, and I'm very, I guess, liberal in what I eat. I typically like a smoothie in the morning for the exact reason of a big breakfast really weighs me down. And when your body is just working that hard to break down a meal, which is why so many people feel sleepy after a big lunch, it's because all of our energy is going towards breaking down that meal. So if I can have a smoothie in the morning and I always put in an avocado, protein powder, fruit, some spinach, it is so satisfying and filling that I don't have to worry about eating a big lunch because I'm just a little bit hungry towards the afternoon and I eat a smaller meal then. And I just firmly believe that our bodies, we have to honor what they could do, and we can't keep loading them down with these heavy meals, expecting the rest of us to continue operating as if we didn't have all of this food inside of us. So I always teach to listen to your body. And that goes along with the food log too. Try different times of day that you could optimize you're satisfied with your meals. And then if you go, if you have IBD or something like that, when is the best time to eat so that your stomach's not upset? Because that's really critical too. Right? And then go to bed. That could often lead to upset stomach. It's not just about what you eat, but it's how and when you eat it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I hope that we keep seeing this movement forward in people like shifting out of that diet industry mindset into how do I eat for the highest level of energy and mental clarity and to optimize my cells. And that goes into the aging part of this. So with Best Whole Self, you created it really for everyone to learn this food intelligence a lot more effectively. But you do work with some serious cases of people that have had different autoimmune issues like yourself to help them get it out of it in a more holistic, hence Best Whole Self, holistic way, so that it's not about medication, but it's how do we get rid of the problem and not exacerbate the problem any longer.
Yes, and a lot of things are true for people who have autoimmune diseases and who don't, such as eating healthier food, processed foods, for so many reasons, one being aging, or I like to compare it to savings. I guess this is my finance background. When you're younger, you don't just blow all the money you make. You put some away in a 401k plan for later. So investing in yourself now, eating right, working out properly, meditating, doing all that now might seem like you're giving up some fun things like sweets and alcohol, but down the road, you'll be happier that you invested now for your future. So it's all about putting in the work, taking the extra step, revamp where you are right now, regardless of your situation, and to move forward so that tomorrow is an even better day than the day before. And every day I wake up, I make sure that I am optimizing my day. We have 24 hours in a day. That can't change. But what can change is how effective we are within them and how productive we are. Yep. And my patients or my clients who have severe IBD, and myself included at times, we suffer from fatigue. And there were days that I would just lose hours on end because of sleeping, and I would miss out on not only work, but a social life and doing the things I love because I just didn't have the energy. And I'm sure a lot of people who don't have these problems suffer from fatigue just because they're run down. And by just changing the quality of foods that you put in your body and optimizing every hour of the day, you get a lot more out of those 24 hours than if you were just sloughing it off and just, eating energy draining foods and just trying not to be your best self every day.
That's why I always say I like to work smarter, not harder, because I'd rather accomplish in 4 hours. I'd rather optimize my physiological state so that my mental state is optimized so that I could do in 4 hours what most people take 8 hours to do. Because you might be present at work, but if you're there and you're mental mush and you're just in front of the computer and you're like, oh, I know I'm supposed to write something. I can't even remember what I'm supposed to write, versus like being in the zone for 4 hours and being effective is so much better. And that's part of the work smarter, not harder theory, because you're optimizing your state of being so that you can get more accomplished quicker, which I'm all for, especially in the summertime when I want to play a lot more and go to the beach. So where can everybody find you if they want to learn more about Best Whole Self and follow you and see some things that you post on social media?
Sure. I am on Instagram under Best Whole Self, Facebook, Best Whole Self, Twitter, Best Whole Self, and my website is bestwholeself.com. And if you want to get in touch with me directly, my email is Julie, Julie, at bestwholeself.com.
Awesome. And you don't have to be in Philadelphia to see her, because now, thank God, with web conferences, we get to coach people all over the world, which is so fun. One of my clients is on here, Josie, and she's in Australia. And we used to coach face-to-face, but she was in Australia and I was here. It was awesome.
I'll do phone, FaceTime, in person. It actually depends on the client, so it's completely up to you. And it's always worth a conversation as how you could squeeze out a little bit more out of your day. And that's exactly what Best Whole Self strives to do.
Awesome. Well, if you want to learn more about being your best whole self, you can follow Julie or contact her. If you know someone who has an autoimmune issue, please put them in touch with her, because having suffered from autoimmune, having a daughter with autoimmune because of the Lyme disease issues, it's horrible. And it makes life so much harder than it needs to be if there's solutions to the problem. And when I got my life back at 20s and I changed my lifestyle, my habits, it was unbelievable. Mine was like opposite. Like I was working out too much, which can also be a bad thing as well. But I mean, I got my energy back. I got my passion back. So if you know anyone who she can help, please direct them in her direction so you can help give them their life back as well. So thanks for tuning in.
Thank you.
You can still put it in the Facebook feed and we'll keep checking on it and get back to you. So thanks so much, Julie. It was great to have you.
Thanks, Jen. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.